Thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were speaking with the Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, who has been speaking with regards to developments in the state, with regards to the cash crunch and elections, the campaigns in the state. And back to you, Mr. Governor. When the president came to the state, he commissioned some projects. And one would like to ask if from all of those projects, you would say that you have delivered on your campaign promises with regards to your first term, because there are those who think otherwise.
Well, if they think otherwise what? Definitely the projects were carried out during our own administration. That's why, in fact, the president was coming to commission a project on agricultural machinery equipment, and then the Federal Secretariat. And I knew people, opposition, were going to say, okay, none of the projects is for the state. So that's why we introduced a state project. That's how the president now came out with 3. Now, even these 2 projects that are talking about, how did we get the agricultural machinery project to come to Nasarawa State? This agricultural machinery project we are talking about is the one that we are going to be sited in all the 6 geographical zones. There is going to be 1 in each one of those zones. We went and lobbied to ensure that the one of Nasarawa starts, because we are an agricultural state, we are this and that, we try to do that. And I think you can see me actually on the day that we went into commission that. So I followed up, I traveled to Naseni. As a governor, I visited Naseni. I pleaded with them. I begged them to come and do this. And when they came in, we gave them the land free. I now became, as an engineer, I now became actually an engineering supervisor of that project. We finished that project in 6 months, from the time it was started. That is on one side. On the other project, the Federal Secretariat, it started during the era of our first executive governor, Abdullahi Adamu, and then abandoned along the way. I was always, following up with Governor Fashola, the minister, to ensure again that project comes into being. We followed up. I inspected. I kept talking to them. We followed until that project actually got concluded. Even on the naming, whose name was going to come out, to name after the project, we followed up on that until it happens. So in every one of them, I followed. And now we did the road on that day. It's a very dangerous road on ecological issues where a lot of our children actually have died. We brought that road, we introduced it. Everybody was excited. I was sitting in the same car with Mr. President. He was so excited that we were able to solve that particular problem. So when they say otherwise what? So those are the projects that were commissioned on that day. Now, there were so many projects that we initiated from ground zero, when people didn't even think of them. And then we came up and established those kind of projects. Most of them were the ones that Mr. President came in to commission, during his February 24th, 2022, in Nasarawa State. So President actually visited us twice in less than 1 year, to ensure that he commissioned projects. Now, most of those projects were projects of the state government. So when you say the people are thinking otherwise what? I don't understand. It's just that it's unfortunate in this country when opposition doesn't have anything to do. They just come in and start saying things on the pages of newspaper. But if they want to find out, they can go and see the projects. And I can see right now on TV, you are showing one of the projects where we're having a lot of problems, in Karu. And then we started that project from a place that was abandoned, that was just a place that meant for criminals, and we crushed everything and we started that project from ground zero until we concluded it. The same thing one in Lafia, the same thing in Kefi, a market that got burned several times, So all these projects, there was no project there. Federal government had no naira there. We did that all with our own little resources that we have and that. So I don't know which people you are talking about and what they mean. And I can see you are showing our technology village also, that is also coming up, which again, nobody was even thinking of technology village in Nasarawa State. We brought it to Karu, where we believe that is where it will be. So we have so many of these projects all over the state, but it's not something that I have to sit down here and keep telling you to worry about opposition. If they are worried, let them tell you what they have done in Nasarawa State. Some of them have been in government, for the first 16 years of our life. They couldn't construct even laterite roads to their villages. And those are the kind of people today that I'm telling you. I'm the one constructing the roads to their villages today. And we're doing it. We're not paying attention. We're not making a mockery of them that they couldn't do that, and we're doing that intentionally because they always say this, that, this, so that's what is happening.
I would like you to speak a little broadly on the politics of the Middle Belt, since you are in that axis in the country. How is your party faring in that aspect of the country, especially knowing that in the past few years you also had problems with banditry, problems with insecurity, and so on and so forth? How going to this election is APC going to perform, both in the presidential and the governorship?
Well, it depends from one state to another. I think you mentioned one thing that has always gone positive for us in our own state. Let me talk from one state to another. In our own state of Nasarawa has been security. There is no place you will go in Nasarawa state today. Even the opposition will tell you that they are giving credit to the governor when it comes to area of security, because we came in and met the state with all some of these issues that you find. Because look at next door neighbor, Benue State, they have the anti-open grazing law. As a result of that, every time you have cows that come across our porous borders and undefined borders, they are arrested. And once the Fulanis get upset that they turn around and every thief person living in Nasarawa State becomes a victim. So we were able to go to a certain extent, and douse that tension significantly. Harder farmer crisis in Nasarawa State is no more happening. It's almost completely zero now. You can hear once in a while that you have one farmer that one herder that allows his cows to go in there, because Nasarawa State is the first state to adopt the NLTP project, and we have the NLTP project where we now have a site where the livestock are going to live, and we got the support of the Netherlands government, support of the federal government, and we gave the land, and then we constructed the road, and we have been able to establish that. That has reduced the harder farmer crisis significantly. So that is now in Nasarawa State. Now, look at other states, that you are talking about, because now you talk largely on the Middle Belt. If you look at the Middle Belt, part of Taraba is in the Middle Belt, Benue definitely in the Middle Belt, part of Kogi is in the Middle Belt, and the rest of that. Now, of course, Nasarawa and Plateau are the heart of the Middle Belt. So this is what is happening, and there are issues in one state or another. But right now in the north-central states, 5 out of the 6 states are actually in the control of the APC, and we don't see any one of them losing. As a matter of fact, we see hope in Benue State that because of all the crises that they are facing, the national chairman of the party is not in good terms with the governor of the party. The governor is here, the vice is there, and now we have a reverend, who is our governorship candidate in the state. And we strongly believe, we are hoping, that if we take Benue, we can now have all the 6 north-central states, under the control of APC. So these are the things. So for us, we are not jittering anything. We are not having any big concerns. Definitely not in Nasarawa, and I don't think also in most of these other states. Where is it are you going to have concerns? Niger, or Kogi, or Kwara, or Plateau, and the rest of that. So we don't see the problem. I don't know if you are seeing it, my brother.
All right, Mr. Governor, you touched on security, so let's talk a little bit about security. One will feel that the governors, the north central states that you call the Middle Belt, are kind of landlocked, which gives them some level of advantage when it comes to border, cross-border insecurity. Because before anyone comes and gets close to your state, you'd have crossed several states before they come there. Now, how are the governors in the Middle Belt or the North Central working together to ensure that this issue of insecurity are issues of the past? Just recently, we heard of the blast in I think the border of Nasarawa State with Benue, thereabout, where some persons were killed. Talk to us about how you're working, collaborating to ensure there is security in the belt?
Well, irrespective of political parties, we as the governors of the North Central, we have our meetings. And in our meetings, number one item being discussed is security. And let me tell you, because of this border crisis, anti-open grazing law and the rest of that we have. When I became a governor, less than 2 months after I became a governor, I visited Benue. And then we established a relationship. And I'm sure you saw, when my son died, one of the first governors to visit me, even though in an opposition political party, was the governor of Benue, visited me in Nasarawa to come and condole with me. He visited me to come and condole also on the issue that you just mentioned on the bombing of those Fulanis, at our border, the border town of Rukubi. So he was one of the governors actually that did that, So there is this relationship between the leaders. We also have relationship between our own traditional rulers within that area. But let me correct one impression you have. If you say we are actually secured because we are in the North Central, you know the amount of problems that we are having, we had and we still having in the state of Niger. Niger is part of the North Central. So just because you don't have border with Cameroon and Niger Republic and Chad, or maybe Benin Republic, it doesn't mean that you are totally secured. You saw what happened there. You all know what has happened over and over in the state of Plateau. So and in fact, part of some of these problems started from the Plateau. So I don't think it is the issue of having a border at the northern sides. That is the cause of this particular problem.
All right. Let's look at the internally generated revenue of your state and how you intend to reposition the state economically to improve on that. The last report I got, I think, was in 2020, and it said that the internally generated revenue was 7.4 billion naira between January and June. And I'm wondering how you intend to improve on that, to reposition the state economically and also to attract investors to the state. How do you want to do that if you are re-elected?
I think the numbers you are putting are outdated. They are long-term numbers. I think if you approach the correct agencies, you will be able to get those kind of numbers, the correct numbers. The 7.1 billion was the internally generated revenue that we had in the year 2019. By 2020, the internally generated revenue grew actually to about 13 billion. By 2021, it actually went in above 20 billion now. So and we are going gradually in growing the internally generated revenue. We came up with some of the laws. Nasarawa State is one of the places that has become very attractive, for those people living in Abuja that cannot afford to live in Abuja. They live in Nasarawa. And that's why we're having Technology Village in Karu, just across the border from here. So we decided to bring about some development in some of those areas so that they will now become more and more attractive, to people to come and live in Nasarawa State. And Nasarawa State is also one of those states that came up with a sister company looking like the Agis. Is it Agis that you have? We have Najis in Nasarawa State and you have Kadis in Kaduna State. So those are the companies that are doing all the geographical work as far as identifying where houses are. So, and then issuing of documents that are required. Being able to generate revenue also from that kind of area. Now, most of these other places that we have built that you can see, the motor parks that we have built, the markets that we have done, we are generating all kinds of revenue from there. So our target is really to be able to take a state that we started, at 7.1 billion in the year 2019, and then take it to maybe somewhere about 30 billion, in a year, in 4 years. That's the target that we had. So we don't have our numbers for 2022 yet, but we already have the numbers that I was telling you in the year 2021, where we are in the neighborhood of 20 billion. So that's where we are, and that is almost 3 times what we found.
Now, it looks like the Middle Belt or the North Central is on the cusp of a new form of prosperity in terms of mineral resources, gas and oil. I understand that Nasarawa is having that. Bauchi has had it. We heard that there's something like that going on in Plateau. Do you think that as these new developments, we know that certain things also going on in Borno? Do you think this, also Sokoto, do you think this development will lead to the rewriting of the constitution in terms of putting mineral resources on the exclusive list?
Why should the discovery of oil in some parts of the north, create the rewriting of the constitution? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, to answer that question immediately, I just told you in a blanket that I spent most of my working career, in the United States. I spent that actually working in the oil and gas sector. So it's part of the reasons why the moment I became a governor, I started working very hard to ensure that, the discovery that we have in the Benue Trough that passes through Kiana in Nasarawa State becomes reality. And I'm happy to inform you that up till this moment we are discussing with NMPC. You saw when I visited NMPC along with some other dignitaries from the state, where we discussed about when the first oil well will be drilled, and then the NMPC GMD, gave us, end of somewhere in March, not end of March, somewhere in March. He said that they are going to have the first well. So as at yesterday, I was still talking to him, and they are going to visit us this month of February to discuss about the modalities for the drilling of that oil well, in the first oil well that we are going to have in March. So there are a lot of these discoveries. Nigeria is blessed with all the basins and all the Benue Trough. Benue Trough, as we know it, actually begins from Calabar, comes through Benue, Nasarawa. It now changes to Upper Benue, in Plateau. And it's the same trough. It goes all the way to Bauchi, Gombe. And that is where Kolmani actually was discovered. And there is about 1 billion barrels of oil at Kolmani. So we expect about the similar kind of find, or discovery, if you want to put it that way, in Nasarawa State that we are talking about. That shouldn't change the constitution, because in fact, it should make Nigeria happier, because most of these huge kind of discoveries are only found in the deep water of Nigeria, not onshore of the Niger Delta. In the deep water of Nigeria, that's where you have the Bonga, 1 billion barrels, Agbani, 1 billion barrels, the Erha. That's where you have all these big discoveries that we have. So now we are beginning to have big discoveries onshore, which is similar to what is happening in Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia, most of their big discoveries are actually onshore in the northern part of Riyadh, and that's where the oil is. And that is what is beginning to happen now to Nigeria. So it's a huge blessing that shouldn't cause any kind of change or commotion or that. No, I don't think just because Nasarawa has oil, we should now say exclusive list. No, Nasarawa takes resource control. In fact, I'm always telling people that the oil that we have in Nasarawa State is not for Nasarawa alone, it's for Nigeria. And that's the way people should look at it. And that's where we are.
All right, Mr. Governor, the Nasarawa State is known, in fact, it's called a solid mineral state, where you have different kind of, for some of the best solid minerals are found in Nasarawa State. And as it is, we expect that by now, there should be a lot of foreign direct investments into Nasarawa State because of some of the very unique, resources you find there. Talk to us regarding exploring some of these issues and how you're working with the federal government to ensure that you get the best out of them.
No, not working with federal government actually, but working with the investors you talk about, and you hit the nail right where it's supposed to be hit, and I love that. So it is the investors that will come and develop that. When we came in the year 2019, we were just actually being exploited. We had a lot of these companies that came into Nasarawa State to take our raw material outside Nasarawa State. And we said, no, it cannot continue to do that. Yesterday, I was at a place, called Ugya, between Toto and Umasha. I stopped by there. I met with one of those Chinese companies that are actually mining the marble that is there. And of course, they had a few CSR that they have done. They built 2 clinics for them, they built that. And I thank them. I say, thank you very much for what you have done. The school, the youth center, which I even commissioned. And I say, wonderful, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an opportunity where you take this marble and process it there and have finished product right there, rather than having it. Now, we have been able to do that in my own village, since we came in. Today, we have established a company, that has come in and invested, and they are taking the granite directly from the mines, from the quarry, all the way now to a processing plant. And now, if you go to the Karu market, well, let me even give you an easier example that you can find. If you go to the Abuja International Airport, you go to the Lagos International Airport, the marble you see on the floor actually came from my own village in Nasarawa State, because now we are doing the finished product right in Nasarawa State. So majority of what you see in the market today is not from Italy, or from some of those countries. They are being mined locally that we have here. So the same Chinese companies are the ones that are selling it to the contractors, CCECC and other things. We are not stopping there. We are having a company also that is coming in, and we have concluded all the MOU and all the arrangements. They are coming also, to take the zinc that they are taking from our local government, instead of taking it out, to produce the zinc right there, so our people can benefit. So those are the kinds of things that we are doing, rather than what we had. People will just come in, and then in most cases, in fact, it's a very unfortunate situation. People are just doing it almost like illegal mining and things like that. So 2 weeks after I became a governor, I visited the Federal Ministry of Mines, and I explained to them, and I say, I want to know who owns what license in Nasarawa State, this and that. And they surprised me. Over 400 licenses were given in Nasarawa State, and the state was not getting anything as part of that. So I said, no, it cannot continue that way. And it is from there we keep picking up one after another, and by the grace of God, we'll get somewhere. But today I'm happy to tell you that we are producing some of those items in Nasarawa State. We are taking a lot of tin, a lot of columbine, a lot of all from these other places in Nasarawa State, and then we are taking them to some other countries to go and process them. Why can't you process them in Nasarawa State? And that's the reason why we're taking them that way. And God so kind, we are succeeding. Slowly, but we're getting there.
All right. Mr. Governor, we have to wrap this conversation up now because we have run out of time. But it seems we'll have to bring you back to perhaps talk more about your plans for the state as you seek re-election. But we must thank you, Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, for your time on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I didn't want to just talk only on my own achievement. That's why I spoke generally on APC achievement in Nasarawa State, because it's a collective work that we have done, and then I have an excellent team on ground also that is doing a good job. I thank you sincerely for inviting me, and I pray that all these problems will come to an end in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Welcome.